Hello and welcome back to another review and recap for Survivor 50 in the hands of the fans, this time for episode 11. This episode was full of surprises, including a double elimination that was never mentioned or heard of. It came out of nowhere, and it led to some very interesting results and drama. We'll get into all of that, but let's start off where last episode left off, and that was Rick flipping the Mr. Beast coin, doubling up the prize money to $2 million. Rick is safe, has an idol that he can play up to the final 7. When it got down to the votes, Stephanie was voted out. And when we get back to camp, people are still trying to wrap their heads at what just happened. You have Rizzo being very excited about the $2 million and just the spectacle of the whole thing. You have Ozzy and Cirie taking this in stride, saying that this is Survivor. It has its twists and turns. You have Rick and Aubrey, who is getting like this adrenaline rush from all the chaos and everything that happened. But Joe is more frustrated. He complains to Aubrey about it. He complains to Cirie about it. And then Cirie goes to Tiffany and is like, I am sick and tired of Joe. I've been babysitting him since Sela, and here I am at like day 21, final 9, still dealing with his temper tantrums. And that's when Tiffany is like, I understand where the frustration comes in, but we have to keep this all in perspective. There's 3 idols in play here, and there's only 9 people left. We're gonna need Joe to help out vote or flush out those idols sooner rather than later. Speaking of idol play, that's when Ozzy walks up, and Cirie pretty much point blank says, hey, your name's coming up a lot, you should probably play your idol pretty soon. Ozzy's like, it's funny that you mentioned that because I had a dream that I got voted out with the idol in my pocket. How terrible would that be? It would feel pretty daggone bad. This episode early on had a lot of Rick, Ozzy, and Cirie, which got me quite a bit nervous because 2 of those 3 people have idols that they could play for themselves, whereas Cirie has an extra vote. But if everybody just decides to lead the charge and vote for her, unless she wins individual immunity, she's kind of a sitting duck. And then my worries started to solidify because Rick and Emily start chatting it up, and Rick is like, I want to make a big move. And that's when he names either going after Joe or Cirie. And by the time this conversation wraps up, it feels like Emily and Rick are so focused on getting Cirie out sooner rather than later. And I was like, oh boy, this is going to be quite an episode. This is where we put a pin in that as everybody gets on a boat, heads over to meet up with Jeff for this week's immunity challenge, which is known to the competitors as the floating doghouse challenge, where there is a floating platform with a triangular structure on it, and you have to put your feet on one level, then the second level, and then you have to stand on top of it and try to balance for as long as possible. The last one standing wins immunity. But also, Jeff lets us know that there is a twist gonna happen at this tribal council, and whoever wins not only is safe, but will get a huge advantage for this week's twist. So there's a lot on the line going into this week's immunity challenge. So everybody gets onto their platforms. Nobody falls off in phase 1. So then they have to go up a level, which then Cirie is unable to get her balance. She touches the platform and has to get out. Nobody else falls in the second phase. It's when they get to the very top of the structure and having to balance on the very top. You have Aubrey falling and then Rick falling. And realistically, that's it. I was actually quite surprised with how well everybody was doing in this challenge. And then that's when Jeff said, get ready for phase 4. Phase 4 is having to lift one leg. So that means you're balancing on a platform, on a triangle, in the water, on one leg. Jeff said that this was gonna go pretty quickly, and it did. Jeff counted down, and everybody fell one after another, in quick succession. You had Rizzo falling, Ozzy falling, Joe falling, Emily falling, and Jonathan fell. Tiffany winning her second immunity challenge in a row. That is until one of the judges pulled Jeff aside and said, you need to come check the tapes. Jeff gets in a boat, goes, talks to the production team. Everybody's just waiting around to see what was said or what was done. When Jeff comes back, he lets everybody know that when he counted down for everybody to lift their leg, Tiffany was slow in lifting her second leg. to the point where other people actually fell into the water and then she started lifting her leg. Because Tiffany didn't lift her leg in the allotted time that Jeff gave, she would have been disqualified. In fact, she was disqualified. So individual immunity went to second place, which was Jonathan. This is Jonathan's second time winning this specific challenge, and it's just interesting that both times that he won it came off of weird instances. Now, Jeff gets into the twist. And the twist is that there are 9 people left in the game. With Jonathan immune, that leaves 8 people. Jeff pulls out a bag, says everybody's gonna pull for rocks. We're gonna split the other 8 tribe members into 2 teams of 4. We're gonna have 2 tribal councils where one person from each team will get booted out in this episode, and Jonathan will act as the 5th contestant in each tribal council, giving him a vote at each. I knew that they were going to have a double elimination at some point, given how many people were left this late in the game, but I didn't think it would shake out this way. What I thought was going to happen is that either this past week's episode or next week's episode was going to be 2 hours, and then we're just going to play 2-hour-long episodes of Survivor back to back to get the double elimination in 1 week. I didn't think we were going to have like a pre-merge type of twist where we're going to split up the already small group of people into 2 even tinier groups of people, and then 2 people's game possibly ending due to a rock draw. Now, even though I was skeptical going into this twist, I think it led to some very interesting drama, very interesting conversations. It was fun to see Jonathan walking back and forth from each side of the beach, just trying to get a hold of what's going on, which we should get into that right now. So everybody draws their rocks. They get into their new tribes, where you have on the purple tribe, Cirie, Emily, Rick, and Tiffany. And on the blue tribe, you have Ozzy, Aubrey, Joe, and Rizzo. The first conversations we see are between Cirie and Jonathan, who want to vote out Rick, but knows that he's probably going to use his idol on himself. So they're going to try to want to split the vote in some way or fashion. I mean, you only have 5 people at your camp. How can you split votes? But they would like to vote for Rick, with Emily being the backup plan. This is where Emily comes up with a plan and tells everyone that Rick is going power mad and wants chaos to reign. So why not play into that? Emily tells every single person that I could convince Rick to play his idol on me, save me, thinking that we're going to vote in an opposite way to then take somebody else out, when in reality, we're going to tell him that he's safe, the vote is Emily, he misplays his idol, and then we just vote him out. People seem to be on board with it, but this is a whole switcheroo, because then Emily goes and tells Rick her whole plan, when everybody votes for Rick and dumps all their votes on Rick thinking that he's going to misplay his idol. What he's really going to do is play the idol for himself, and then he and Emily are going to vote Cirie out. So pretty much that's all the gameplay and strategizing that happens over at the Purple Tribe. At least when it deals with what's going to be happening at the Purple Tribe and their tribal council. As all the attention then turns over to the Blue Tribe, where Ozzy is feeling like on cloud 9. He actually loves this twist because he loves who he is now settled with going into tribal council, with some competitors that he feels he can trust no matter what. You have Rizzo, who he has a final 3 deal with himself, Rizzo, and Cirie, the Sir Wizard of Oz. And he has Joe, who he's been rocking with since day 1. Ozzy's feeling really good about his positioning. He has an idol in his pocket just in case, but he doesn't feel like he has to use it just yet. This is where I think Ozzy just completely gets too far into the clouds, counts his chickens before they hatch, because the first thing that he does is he wants to have a one-on-one conversation with Aubrey, where in that conversation he just lets everything go about his game plan, about advantages. He's not even just talking about his game, he's talking about Cirie's game. He's talking about how Cirie has an extra vote that he gave to her and like day 3. He went into the intricacies of his game from day 1 up to this point, as well as what he wants to accomplish further on into the game. I want to go to the end with Cirie, and it's just like, Ozzy, I understand that you feel like Aubrey is completely alone on this tribe, that you think that she is the easy vote, which seems to be the case until everything that Ozzy tells to her right now gets leaked out everywhere. Aubrey going to Rizzo and Joe, telling them what Ozzy told to her, which was just absolutely mind-baffling. Why would you ever want to do that. Nothing is ever guaranteed. So with Aubrey laying the groundwork for Rizzo and Joe, you have Jonathan now solidifying with Aubrey, who, they're not on the best of terms of what happened in last tribal council, where Aubrey and Rick kind of like doubled up on Stephanie. But Jonathan has been talking about wanting to go for Ozzy for weeks now. So with Aubrey like, yeah, let's do it, it's then on Jonathan to somehow persuade Joe to want to vote Ozzy. And Joe at first is pushing back. Joe then is like, okay, well, I'll consider it if I can go talk to Rizzo and see where his head is at. I don't want to blindside him while we're blindsiding Ozzy. And it wasn't until Cirie gave Jonathan permission to let Joe go talk to Rizzo in hopes that if Joe told Rizzo about the plan to vote Ozzy, that somehow Rizzo would then give the heads up to Ozzy to play his idol for himself. That's what Cirie wants. But upon Joe and Rizzo talking about the possible Ozzy blindside, you have Rizzo in the confessionals being like, yeah, it could be a good time to just let Ozzy go. And I was like, oh no. Say it ain't so. Say that the beginning of this episode, with Ozzy having the dream of being voted out with the idol in his pocket, isn't some cruel, ironic foreshadowing that is legitimately going to happen this time around. Well, we're going to have to put a pin in that because we get to the tribal councils with the purple team first, Cirie's tribe, where when we get down to the votes, I'm just like, please, 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 Cirie, use your extra vote. Everybody gets their votes in. Rick then stands up, uses his hidden immunity idol, which is like a string with 6 beads on it. Really, this is one of the worst like hidden immunity idols I've ever seen on this show, but Rick hands it over to Jeff and plays it for himself. He reads the votes where 2 votes come for Rick, does not count, 2 votes for Cirie, which were Rick and Emily, and then 2 votes for Emily, which came from Cirie, leading to a revote where everybody had to either vote for Cirie or Emily. And the final vote is 4 votes to Emily, 2 votes for Cirie, and Emily was eliminated. I will say that it was a valiant effort, but it was just too good of a social game, too good of an intuition, and a great play using that extra vote that she has been holding in her pocket since like the first week of the game, which I thought was a really, really, really well done play by Cirie. Emily does not walk off. She just instantly joins the jury. Everybody leaves. The next tribe comes in. They see that Emily was voted off. I don't think anybody was really surprised by it. This is now the tribal council where I was like, all right, this is going to be make it or break it, I'm on the edge of my seat wondering, will Ozzy use his idol? Everybody gets in their votes. Jeff asks if anybody has an advantage or a hidden immunity idol and they would like to play it now. Ozzy looks over, I think over at Joe and Rizzo to get some sort of nod, some sort of motion, some sort of hand signal, a wink, a nod, a whistle, something to let him know you should play your idol. We all voted for you. And this is where I think Ozzy gets lulled into trusting and believing people on Survivor too much because he doesn't say anything. And Jeff just goes on to read the votes. 1 vote for Ozzy, 1 vote for Aubrey, 2 votes for Ozzy, 3 votes for Ozzy, 4 votes for Ozzy. And you can just tell how crushed Ozzy was. And it's like one of the few tribal councils that he does not have Cirie. He just completely falls apart, loses sight of the game. Why are you playing 4 days ahead, 5 days ahead when you are still having to play the game now? Nothing is guaranteed, and he just talked way too much. Rizzo even says that. I mean, I don't know what Rizzo is trying to accomplish here when you see, read the room. Read Ozzy's posture. He's now on the jury at the time of you getting up to hug him and be like, I'm so sorry, but man, you just talked too much. Your lips were flapping too much, my guy, and I had to vote you out. It's really not the time or the place to say that. Ozzy is not feeling in the best headspace as he felt he could really trust Rizzo, Joe, and Jonathan. And you can just see Ozzy has taken his time. He's really trying to wrap his mind, come to terms with what just happened. How could he get bamboozled like this with people that he felt like he could trust? I'm going to tell you right now, Ozzy will not vote for any of these people to win unless 3 of the final tribal council is made up of 3 people here, but there is no way Ozzy would ever vote for any one of these people. I mean, he thought he was in good with Rizzo and Joe, who completely blindsided him and did not give him an ounce of a heads up or whatsoever. So if he feels betrayed by any single person, it's them 2 specifically. I think Jonathan also falls into that camp. The only person that can come out and spin this in the positive to Ozzy would be Aubrey being like, hey, it was either you or me, and I'm sorry, but I had to throw you out there. But truly, if it's 2 people from this tribe and even 1 person on the other tribe, Ozzy's gonna vote for somebody else. Because I can just tell that he's not gonna vibe with anything anyone at this tribal council will say. Yeah, it was just really tragic to see Ozzy just walk out like that. And with the idol in his pocket. I mean, come on now. You had that dream. Then this twist happens, and then you just got too complacent, too mellowed out in the game to like even want to play it. It's just ridiculous. It was so bad. It was just really, really bad on his part. But can't help but to feel bad for him, even though it was a really, really poor move and just not smart at all. But what does this mean for Sir Wizard of Oz? What will happen next week when everybody reunites and Cirie sees that Ozzy is gone and that Rizzo did not give him the heads up? Will Cirie want to turn on Rizzo? Now that Cirie's name was floated out there, will people be like, oh, Ozzy's gone? And Cirie got a couple of votes and had to pull out an extra vote that nobody really knew she had. What about going after her? The preview to next week seemed like everybody was pointing at each other, and it just feels like this game is going to implode, and I am so here for it. But now I want to turn over to you. What'd you think about this week's episode? Let me know down in the comment section below. What'd you think about the daily challenge? What'd you think about the twist of splitting up the final 9 into 2 tribes with Jonathan pinballing back and forth? Do you think that was a fun idea? Or are you kind of getting tired of all these gimmicks and twists and just being like, why can't we just have a normal tribal council at final 9 or final 8 or for the rest of the game? Why does every single episode have to have some twist or gimmick in it? I can totally understand where you're coming from, as I feel that way too. Let me know that down in the comment section below. What do you think about Emily being voted out and them trying to play this whole fake idol play to get Cirie out? What did you think about Ozzy leaving with an idol in his pocket? Let me know anything and everything you felt about this episode down in the comment section below. I now want to give a special shout out thank you to everyone who supports me over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to everyone who's watching this video up to this point. I'll be back really, really soon with more Survivor content, more challenge content, more content in general. But until then, peace.